Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I just wanted to come on real quick tonight and say hello. It's been a long time since I've even posted anything to Facebook or have seen any of you. And so, I just wanted to say hi, that I'm still around. I'm still doing readings for folks. So, if you are ready to do a reading yourself, or if you know somebody that wants to do a reading, then please have them send me an email and I will give them the information in order to do a reading. So, the other thing that I wanted to let you know is it's been a year. I just had my birthday over the weekend, and since my birthday last year, I've done so many things. I'm so sorry. That is the crazy bird clock that my children gave me for Mother's Day. So sorry about that. It's 6 p.m. Anyway, so since my birthday last year, I've done a lot of stuff. I traveled to Europe twice. I went to Spain and Italy, and then I went back and went to England, and that was wonderful. And then I also attended a conference in Tampa in May. It was called the I Can Do It conference. Hay House Publishing put it on, and it was really a great conference. I met some people. It was the first time in my life that I've ever been at a conference with people who were like me and understood what I was saying and was able to speak my language. And it was a great experience. And just a lot of things that we talked about. It was just felt good, to be amongst others that were like me. So that's the first time I've ever done anything like that, and I really enjoyed it. So just wanted to give you a short update about that. That's really what's been going on with me. And like I said, I'm still doing readings as well. There's been a couple of questions about that, though. I do not do them in person. I'm still not doing them in person. Um, I have no plans to hold them in person. So I'm sorry about that, but I've just found that it works well with me doing it via Zoom. Um, it's very comfortable for the client and it's very comfortable for me. And I've gotten a lot of really good feedback about doing it that way. So I don't have to worry about weather, going out in weather, either one of us. We don't have to worry about traffic. We don't have to worry about any of that kind of thing. We can just get on and at the designated time, and do what we have to do. And it just works out really well for everyone. So I have no plans of holding in-person sessions again. And I have no plans of holding group sessions again either, whether it's on Zoom or in person, because it just takes a lot out of me. And if I do a group, I can't schedule anybody else for that week. And so it just takes too much out of me, and I'm getting older and I think it just takes a lot more out of me to do things. So that's what's going on there. Okay. So, the next thing that I want to talk about is, and so if you give StreamYard your permission, you can text a comment. You can put things in the text box and send me a comment or a question. So feel free to do that. I'll get to as many of those as I can at the end. But I wanted to tell y'all a couple of stories. So one just happened to me this afternoon. I had to call a customer service line about something that was going on, and that I was having trouble with. And so I called the customer service line, and the gentleman that answered the phone was trying to answer my question, and he was really trying to help me, but it was very difficult for me to understand him. The communication, the language barrier was just really difficult. And so I was having a hard time. And so I just kind of paused for a second and I said, I'm sorry, I just don't understand. And I said, let me pause for just a second so that I can understand. And I prayed to my angel and I just said, please help me to communicate with this man better. Please help me to understand. Because it was something important and I needed to understand what he was telling me. And so the gentleman said, okay. He said, all right, Miss Johnson, let me put you on hold. And I'm going to get you the information and I'll come back to you. And I said, okay. And so he put me on hold. And the next thing I know, the phone starts ringing again. And then the recording comes on saying, thanks for calling. And, a customer service rep will be with me in just a few minutes. And then a girl answered the phone and said, thanks for calling, told me her name and said, explain your problem. And that just cracked me up because I could perfectly understand her. It was so much better. And then I was able to go on with my phone call. I understood exactly what she was saying. And so, I tell y'all all the time that you can ask your angels for help with anything. And I truly mean that. Anything as small as help me to communicate better, anything as small as help me to open the lid on this jar, help me, any little bitty thing they can help you. And, I just love when that happens, like I just said a little prayer to my angel, help me to communicate better. I didn't know that I was going to get a whole new person to communicate with, but, the problem was solved. I understood what I needed to do. And then that was it. So I love when that happens, so please make sure you're calling on your angels. Always ask them for help because that's what they're there for. Okay. So then I have another story to tell. And this one has a little bit bigger lesson, I think. I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago, I guess. And I was going to post about it. And then I said, oh, I'll just go do a Facebook Live because it's easier for me to tell a story. But it was a couple of weeks ago, I had to go to Walgreens. And so my son was with me and we pulled up at Walgreens. And when we pulled up into the parking space, there was a homeless gentleman that was sitting on the sidewalk outside of Walgreens. And I could see that he was very frail. I could see a mist coming off of him. And if you've followed me for any period of time or have heard me speak about the mist, you know that when I see a mist coming off of you, that means that your life force is leaving you so rapidly that it's forming a mist around in your energy field. So I could see the mist coming off of him. And I just, as soon as I pulled up and I saw him, I just thought, this poor soul, And so when I got out of the car, I was going to wait and go inside first. And then on my way out, talk to him. And then something just told me to talk to him on my way in. So I stopped and I said, hey, are you okay? And he just kind of, shrugged his shoulders and kind of shrugged me off. And I said, what's the matter? I said, are you hungry? Do you need something to eat? I said, I'll go in and get you something to eat. You want something to eat? And he said, no. He said, I can't eat anything out of there because I'm allergic to nuts. I can't eat any kind of peanuts or anything. So I said, okay. I said, do you want me to get something else for you? I said, do you want maybe some water, something to drink? And he was like, no. I said, how about some Gatorade? And he said, Gatorade. He said, Jaya, Gatorade. I said, okay. I said, what flavor Gatorade do you like? And he said, blue, get me blue. So I said, okay, blue Gatorade. I said, is that it? And he said, Jay, I said, you don't want any, I said, how about some ice cream or something? He said, no, nothing like that. And he was kind of shaky, so I don't know, what his problem was. He didn't seem to be on drugs or he didn't have any alcohol around him. So, he didn't seem like anything like that. I just think he was just hot. It was when it was one of that week that it was really hot. Right. So I went in and there were two different flavor blue Gatorades. So I bought both of them and I brought them out to him and I said, here you go, sir. I said, here's some Gatorade. And he said, thank you so much. And I said, no. I said, of course. I said, do you have a place to stay tonight? And he said, well, he said, I live under the bridge. And I said, oh, I said, okay. I said, is it safe under the bridge? And he said, well, it's as safe as any place else. And so you see what I mean by, like, he was holding a conversation. He was very lucid, you know, he wasn't, you know, talking out of his head or anything. So I just think he was just homeless. I don't know why. I didn't ask him why. It's not, you know, that wasn't the point. But and I realized after I forgot to ask his name, so I don't know his name. But he said, Jay, said it's as safe as any other place, you know, to live under the bridge. And I said, okay. And then he pointed, and I realized there was a walker, you know, by the garbage can, not too far from him. And he pointed at the walker and he said, that's my walker. And he said, because of that walker, you know, that makes me vulnerable. And I said, oh, I said, people, you know, want to try to take you over. And he said, Jay, he said, and they do. He said, they overtake me very easily. He said, I'm weak, you know, I can't fight them. And I said, oh, I said, I'm so sorry, you know, about that. And he said, yeah, he said, well, and he shrugged his shoulders and he said, I'm not mad at him. I can't be mad at him for doing that. He said, we're all just trying to survive. And I said, okay. And then he said, and you know, and then there's God. And I said, yep. I said, there is God. And he said, and I know God's watching over me. And I said, yes, he is. I said, he surrounds you with angels every day. And he said, I know it. He said, I get surrounded by angels every day. He said, there's no two ways about it. And he said, and I can't blame them. He said, because I see more kindness in this world than hate. And he said, when you saying God surrounds me with angels, he said, people stop and help me all the time. And he said, people talk to me and treat me well. And he said, so I cannot be mad at those people for taking me over when I see so much kindness in the world. And just around that time, you know, he said, you know, there was a little boy that came by yesterday, and he said he was on a brand new bike. And he said, the little boy stopped and he said, Mister, here, you want my bike? I'll give you my bike. And he said, I told that little kid, no, son, I can't take your bike. That bike looks brand new. And the kid said, yeah, it is. I got it because I made good grades in school this year. So my parents bought me a bike. And he said, but I want you to have it. He said, you don't have anything. So I want you to have this bike. And he said, and I told the kid, son, even if I wanted to take it from you, I can't walk. I have to walk with a walker, you know, like I can't ride your bike. And he said, the kid kind of looked sad and said, okay, all right, mister, you know, but if you want it, you can have it. And he said, no, son, you know. And he said, so the kid got on his bike, you know, oh no, before that, he said the kid reached down in his pocket. And as he reached down into his pocket, he pulled out a quarter. And he said, well, here, take this, you know. And he said, I told the kid, no, I don't want your quarter. Keep your quarter. It's all right. I'm all right. And he said, no, take it. And he wouldn't take it. So then finally the kid got on his bike and he rode off. And he said, but he made a quick circle and came back and threw the quarter at the homeless guy and took off. And I thought, how sweet is that, that kid just wanted to help somebody that he saw that had less than him. And how wonderful that this homeless man who seemingly has nothing, to us, we look at that man and we think, this guy's got nothing. I think has everything, because he is seeing the kindness of the world. He's seeing love in the world where he could see hate, where he could see lack, where he could see attack. He sees love and kindness and peace and helpfulness. And I just thought, man, you know, what a lesson for us to learn from this homeless man, you know, somebody that seemingly has nothing. You know, he truly has everything. And, you know, I don't know why he's homeless. I don't know if he, you know, has a drug problem or an alcohol problem or, you know, and I said, if I don't know anything else, I know that he's somebody's son. because when I got in the car, my son was like, why are you talking to that guy? Like, what's going on with that guy? And I said, I don't know. I said, but if that was you, I would hope somebody would do the same for you. And I guess that's what I see when I see people like him and I see others. I really see, if nothing else, somebody's child. And he could be a father, he could be a brother, he could be, I don't know, an uncle, whatever, but he is definitely someone's son. So, anyway, I just thought that was a great lesson to learn from a homeless man, from somebody that seems to have nothing to truly have everything. And just wanted to share that with y'all. So anyway, that's it. I don't have any questions to answer on my post. I don't know if y'all just didn't log into StreamYard or whatever, but I don't have any questions right here tonight to answer. So thanks, Angela said it's so beautiful. Thanks, Angela. So anyway, I have been also studying something called A Course in Miracles. And it's a book that looks like a Bible. I mean, it's a very thick, as you can see, a very thick book. It's called A Course in Miracles. And it's 365 lessons. It's a lesson a day for 365 days. I started on January 1st. And tomorrow is day 200. So today was day 199, and tomorrow is day 200. So anyway, thanks y'all. Everybody, the people that are in the chat are saying that it was a beautiful story. So I'm glad y'all liked it. Anyway, Course in Miracles, what it is a lesson a day, every day for a year. There's also some text. There's something called a manual for teachers, and then there's a workbook for students that has all the lessons. But I have been learning a lot. When I was on my Camino in October, and I can't remember if I came live since October, but on my Camino in October, I received a message saying that life is simple and I complicate it, and that I needed to see love first. That when I looked at other people and when I looked at situations, I needed to see love first. So I thought, okay, and how life is simple and I complicate it because I project and I try to predict what's going to happen in a situation or, whatever. And so I need to stop doing that and just let things be revealed to me. But this seeing love first thing kind of got to me, because I thought to myself, well, I think I see things, but I realized how judgmental I am. I can be judgmental. I can be, I'm much less judgmental now than I was. But seeing love first. And so right after that, I got an email from Dr. Robert Holden and his wife, Holly. They have a group called Everyday Miracles. And I got an email. I was on his email list because I love Dr. Robert Holden. He wrote a bunch of books. One of them is called Shift Happens, which I really like. He wrote Happiness Now. He wrote Success Intelligence. He's got a bunch of them. But I really like him. I actually got to meet him at the I Can Do It conference. I was very excited about that. But him and his wife, Holly, were doing this Everyday Miracles group. And it said it was learning about A Course in Miracles and removing all the barriers to love that we have. And so I was like, where do I sign up? Like, I just got this message, on the Camino in October. I was, 5 weeks in Europe. I got back. It was Thanksgiving time. And right after Thanksgiving, I get this email, about this group that's opening up. And I'm like, where do I sign up? And we started on January 1st. So anyway, it's been very eye-opening. And you realize after a couple of days of being in this A Course in Miracles group, after about day 4 or 5, you realize that this is a work in progress, that you will forever be studying A Course in Miracles. It's not just for a year. It's for the rest of your life. So once you learn about it and you get into it, you realize that. Um, but anyway, so I just wanted to leave you with this. And of course, now I lost my place because I picked up the book. Um, but this is from A Course in Miracles, and it's a prayer to help us to practice. And I just think that it's a beautiful prayer. And if y'all don't have any questions, I don't know of anything that anybody. Mostly, what people ask me is about angels and their deceased loved ones, and how to connect with them, and that sort of thing. And I think that this prayer kind of helps with that. So anyway, here it goes. Steady our feet, our Father. Let our doubts be quiet and our holy minds be still, and speak to us. We have no words to give to you. We would but listen to your word and make it ours. Lead our practicing as does a father lead a little child along a way he does not understand. Yet does he follow, sure that he is safe because his father leads the way for him. So do we bring our practicing to you, and if we stumble, you will raise us up. If we forget the way, we count upon your sure remembering. We wander off, but you will not forget to call us back. Quicken our footsteps now, that we may walk more certainly and quickly unto you. And we accept the word you offer us to unify our practicing as we review the thoughts that you have given us. God is but love, and therefore so am I. This self alone knows love. This self alone is perfectly consistent in its thoughts, knows its creator, understands itself, is perfect in its knowledge and its love, and never changes from its constant state of union with its Father and itself. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I just really think that that's a beautiful prayer to help us to be better in our practice, our spiritual practice, and learning. And I love the part that says, we wander off, but you will not forget to call us back. And I just think of, like, when my kids were little, if you have children, or even if you have a dog, when they wander off, you kind of go, okay, come on, come back over here, and like get them on their way. Right. And I just feel like that's what God does with us. We wander off and he's like, okay, come on, come back this way, So anyway, that's all I have for y'all tonight. I'm hoping to be able to do this more often, to be able to, do some Facebook Lives. If I'm going to be quite honest, I would rather do this and talk to y'all and than to write it. So if y'all are okay with me doing this every month or so, then I'm happy to do it. And then just remember to give StreamYard permission so that you can make comments and ask questions. So let's see. That was wonderful. I love that analogy. My new mantra is live in love. Good, Melanie. Just picked it this week. Well, now you've gotten some reassurance about that with tonight's, I haven't done this in forever. And now tonight I decided to do this right when you decided to do that. So hopefully that's some validation for you. And somebody asked a question. Let's see, what was the question? Are our loved ones with us all the time? Usually, yes. They can't be in more than one place at a time. So if they are with you, then, and they're hanging out with you, then they maybe aren't with, one of your children or something like that. But they can go back and forth instantaneously. So, so it's very quick. So maybe they're with me right now, and then the next second they might be with somebody else, and the next second they might be with somebody else. And time for them is not the same as it is for us. So, maybe what is a second to them is, a lifetime for us. I'm not sure. But yes, to answer your question, Andrea or Andrea, I'm not sure how you say it. That is true. Our loved ones are with us a lot. Now, I did learn something, and I shared this with somebody today. I did learn something new. I was reading some things about Padre Pio, and I don't know if y'all know about Padre Pio. And I had known this about him, but I wasn't sure how it worked. And so I got some clarification, I guess I should say. Padre Pio is a saint now. And he is from Italy, and he's what they call an incorruptible. And so his body did not disintegrate. It looks like the day he died. And if you go to Italy, and I forget where he is in Italy, it's on the other side of the country from Rome. But if you go there, you can. I don't know if he's always on display, but I think he is on display at certain times, and you can go and see him. But Padre Pio, when he lived, he would tell folks to send their guardian angels to him, and ask him for whatever they needed, and he would help them in whatever way he could. And I thought, that's interesting, because I thought our guardian angels were just with us 100% of the time, all the time, 100% of the time. And so, I asked my guardian, as usual, I asked my guardian angel, what's the deal with that? Like, and she said that I can send her to somebody else to give a message, or to, like, if I, somebody needs protection or needs, I don't know, let's say somebody I love is having a surgery, and I want my guardian to be with them as well. I can send my guardian to be there, but she can also be with me. And so it's not a either or, it's sort of an energy thing. And I didn't quite understand it, but she can, it spreads out so much, I guess, that she can be with me and be with someone else at the same time, which I thought was interesting, because that had never been my experience before. But when I was reading more about Padre Pio and how people sent him their angels with questions to help them, he was up all night, all day, and he would get information. He had the stigmata, on his hands, and so he would stay up and just like write and pray and contemplate all night long. And he might see somebody the next day, and he would say, "Oh, here's the answer to your question," and give it to your angel. I got the message from your angel, and here it is. And I just thought, that's awesome, that you could send your angel to someone to ask them something or to help or whatever. And yet they are still with you, guarding you. So there's that. And then there was something else. Oh, about the angel names. So angel names. So my angel told me that it doesn't matter what their name, like, you don't have to name your angel. So if you want a name for them, then you can ask them their name, as I've told y'all before, and they will give you a name, or you will think of a name, and you can just start calling them that. But you don't need an angel, a name for your angel. They are your angel. So if you just call them my angel, or if you just say my guardian or my guardian angel, however you want to call them, but say my angel, mine. I'm talking to my angel. Then they know that you're talking to them. So they don't necessarily need a name. You don't necessarily need to call them something. You're not wrong if you are calling them something, but you don't have to. And the thing about that is that if it is going to, if by calling them a name, it's going to make you call on them more often, then that's the goal. They want you to call on them as much as possible, anytime, for any little bitty thing, whether it's to help with something small or help with something big. Like I said at the beginning, they want you to call upon them. So if having a name for them and calling them by a name, it makes you more comfortable with calling upon them for help, then by all means call them a name. They're not offended by that. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I've seen some YouTubes of some different priests and, saying that, that is like heresy. It's insulting God for you to call something that he named or his angels by something, by some name that you give them. And the bottom line is what I got and what I know to be true is that if it's going to cause you to call them more often, then call on them, call them by their name that you think it is. So there's that. Okay, so hold on. Hi, Gail. Question about dementia. Sometimes it seems like my mom is in between both worlds. Is it true or just the physical changes in her brain? I feel like they can have a foot on both sides. So I was talking to somebody about this same person that I was telling about the angels today. It was in my reading today. I was telling her the same thing, that they can have a foot in both worlds. So I feel like sometimes they're a little more on the other side. And so they're talking to folks from over there and they're seeing the people, their deceased loved ones, and they're talking to them. And, the truth is that we are alive. Always. We're always alive. Our bodies disintegrate and go away, but our true selves are always living. That does not go away. So when they say they're talking to their mom, who's, who we think has been passed away for years and years, they're just saying that living being, because they kind of have a foot in both sides. So I hope that answered your question. If not, and you need me to clarify, tell me again. Don't worry, tell me that. Can a mother call upon her children's guardian angel to ask for help or protection while they are away from their mother? Yes. So yes, that is true. So you can call upon your child's guardian angel. You can also ask your guardian angel to talk to their guardian angel. Does that make sense? So you can say, my angel, would you please go talk to, my daughter's guardian angel, my son's guardian angel, whatever. Go talk to them and ask them to help, whatever, to help with that. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily try to speak directly to your child's guardian angel. I would likely ask my guardian angel to go talk to their guardian angel. And you can always pray to your children's guardian angels, and say, hey, please protect them while they're away, while they're, I don't know, with their grandma on vacation or taking a car ride or whatever. Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. I think I know my angel can talk to theirs. I hope that made sense. So I think it's either way you can do it. Okay, good. Okay, that was good. Thank y'all for the questions. So anyway, again, like I said, I hope to do this again in maybe a few weeks. If everybody's up for that, I'll try to be more consistent. Like I said, it's been a year for me. I've done a lot this year. So this next year, I'm hoping won't be as busy, I guess. And I'll have more time to do these kinds of things. This is the stuff that I really enjoy. This is why I know I'm here. And so I'm happy to do it. So anyway, I hope y'all have a great night. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you for the questions. And thank y'all for watching it, whoever may not be here live. If you're watching it on a replay, thanks for watching it. And I'll let y'all know when I plan to come again. I'll post it on Facebook in a few weeks. All right. Y'all take care. Bye.